Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you join me for today's explainer. We're doing clinical rounds today, and our case study is a fascinating one. Picture this, a 35-year-old patient who just experienced a near-miss traffic collision. They present in the ER with acute tachycardia, massively dilated pupils, and rapid breathing. Now, we aren't just going to sit here looking at a static diagram today, right? We're going to actively diagnose exactly how their internal wiring literally kept them alive. So, that brings us right to those primary symptoms. You've definitely heard of the fight or flight response, right? It's that intense, sudden physiological reaction to imminent danger. The heart races to pump oxygen, muscles tense up for impact, and awareness sharpens in actual milliseconds. But how exactly does the body orchestrate this brilliant survival mechanic? Like, how does the visual threat of a speeding car instantly turn into a physical escape? To figure that out, let's review today's clinical pathway. We'll start with the clinical presentation, trace the peripheral network, follow the spinal link up into the brain's anatomy under stress, and wrap up with fight, flight, and recovery.
All right, Section 1, the clinical presentation. Let's dive right into the specific autonomic system that totally hijacked our patient's body the second those tires screeched.
Our patient's nervous system relies on these incredible background managers known as the autonomic nervous system. And this divides into two really critical branches. First up, the sympathetic nervous system. This is the survival engine. It completely revs the body up, preparing our patient to literally dodge that oncoming car. But, a patient can't survive in that red line state forever, for sure. That's exactly where the parasympathetic nervous system steps in as the vital counterbalance. Once the threat passes, it acts as the brakes, bringing the heart rate and breathing back down to a normal resting baseline. Moving on to Section 2, tracing the peripheral network. Now that we know what's revving the patient up, let's work backward a bit. How did the danger signal actually get detected by the body in the first place? Well, for that, we look to the elaborate network lying just outside the brain and spinal cord. This outer network is the peripheral nervous system, which houses the somatic system. It connects the skin, sensory organs, and all your skeletal muscles to process external stimuli. This is the exact system that allowed our patient to see those blinding headlights and hear the loud crash. And crucially, it's the very network that triggered their skeletal muscles to physically dive out of harm's way. So, the crucial point is that the sheer genius of this system really lies in its directional flow. On one side, we have afferent sensory neurons. Afferent means conducting inward, so these carry the terrifying sight and sound of the danger inward to the central nervous system. On the flip side, we have efferent motor neurons, which conduct outward. These carry the command to move back out to the muscle fibers. Sensory danger goes in, motor escape plan goes out, and the whole shebang happens in a fraction of a millisecond. Absolutely wild. And that brings us perfectly to Section 3, the central control center, because obviously those inward afferent signals have to travel somewhere to be processed. They are heading straight to the central nervous system, specifically the brain and the spinal cord. But before the signal hits the brain, it travels via the spinal cord. Think of it as the ultimate biological superhighway. It's divided into four main regions, the cervical, thoracic, and lumbar sections, down to where the afferent and efferent spinal nerves merge. It's just a flawless transit system, rushing our patient's survival signals straight to headquarters. Next up is Section 4, brain anatomy under stress. The danger signal has traveled from the eyes, up the afferent nerves, up the spinal cord, and has now arrived inside the cranium or skull. Let's take a look inside and see how the brain actually reacts. Within the cranium, the brain is a complex marvel. Anatomically, we're looking at a checklist of 6 major players here: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the diencephalon, the midbrain, the pons, and finally, the medulla oblongata. Let's diagnose exactly how this team worked together to keep our patient alive. Right at the base, where the brain connects to the spinal cord, sits the medulla oblongata. When our patient saw that car, their spiking heart rate, rapid breathing, and massive blood pressure surge were all commanded right here. It is the literal center for respiration and cardiovascular regulation. Talk about a crucial piece of real estate. Moving a bit deeper, we find the diencephalon, which houses 2 really critical structures. The thalamus acts as a busy sensory relay station, but right beneath it is the hypothalamus, and let me tell you, it is working overtime right now. It regulates our patient's temperature and blood vessels, but incredibly, it's also the emotional core. The sheer, blinding fear our patient felt on that street, that was synthesized right here in the hypothalamus. Now, to successfully sprint away from that speeding car, our patient needed impeccable immediate balance. That falls to the cerebellum at the back of the head, which is responsible for muscle coordination and posture.
Meanwhile, the midbrain locks onto the sights and sounds of the threat, and the pons handles unconscious reflexes like saliva production, which, by the way, is exactly why your mouth goes bone dry when you're terrified.
And brilliantly illustrating all of this is the crown jewel, the cerebrum. Divided into 4 distinct lobes, it perfectly splits the labor of survival. The occipital lobe processes those blinding headlights. The temporal lobe processes the screeching tires. The parietal lobe integrates all of this overwhelming sensory data. And finally, the frontal lobe takes all that data and reasons out the best possible escape route in literally less time than it takes to blink. It's like a giant puzzle coming together instantly.
This brings us to our final section: fight, flight, and recovery. We've traced the anatomy from the outside in and the inside out.
Let's conclude our clinical rounds by looking at the big picture of what this system ultimately achieves. When we take a step back, the primary function of the nervous system becomes beautifully clear. Its basic purpose is to coordinate all of the activities of the body. Whether it's an internal change, like a shift in temperature, or an external danger, like a speeding car heading right toward our patient, this entire complex system, the brain, the spinal cord, the peripheral nerves, the somatic and autonomic systems, flawlessly enables the body to respond, adapt, and ultimately survive.
But I want to leave you with a final thought from our rounds today. Beyond just biological survival, this system does something truly miraculous. It allows us to know ourselves. The exact same biological wiring that commanded our patient to leap from danger is the very same network that produces human consciousness, art, and intelligence. Which leaves us with a profound question to ponder. If our most elevated thoughts and our most primal survival instincts share the exact same biological hardware, where does survival end and the self begin? Thanks so much for joining me on these clinical rounds today. Until next time.